Hey guys, it's time for another edition of the Retro Buzz, episode number 7. This is our CES wrap-up type show, and we've got Palomino, Glenn Plemento joining us. I have to say that every time. Come on, you know that.
Hey, it's cool. It's cool. It's a long name. I've I've heard it all.
So we've got Glenn with us, and obviously we're short another regular that we have on here, but we do have Matt Damon with us. And he is, no, it's not Cooltoy, but we got the next best thing. We got the PDub.
PDubs.
And
Hey, thanks, guys. I literally just got home from Vegas
I was just
about,
going to say that.
25 minutes ago. I've been dealing with all kinds of stuff. It's been a crazy day, but happy to be on the show and happy to help out while Doug is on a plane playing with his video games on the plane.
Well, we figured, am I right, Glenn? It was, we had to have somebody on here that could talk about CES since we weren't there, and we were kind of counting on Doug for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I want to take 1 second to thank Doug's wife. Thank you very much for letting him go and helping him out at the show. She was a huge help and a trooper. So thank you very much. And absolutely, I mean, P-Dub was right down there in the trenches. He was working hard. I loved a lot of the videos he was showing out there. And until Cool Toy comes back, we have the next best thing here, Mr. P-Dub.
And
Oh, thanks, man.
I think we found out while you're at CES that your nickname was actually, because you call it P-Dubs, it's Pinball Dubs.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what happens when I volunteered to help the Toy Shock company, with social media stuff, because they're a very small company, brand new, and things of that nature. So it's great to have someone in the booth doing videos and pictures and sending out tweets and Instagram, just lending them a hand. And it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever been to CES, and I'll definitely never forget it. That's for sure.
There was a lot of coverage going on, and
Oh yeah.
so we're gonna cut to something right now that Doug, even though he's not here, he actually put together a little CES clip that he wanted to share with everybody, and so we're gonna take you to that right now, kind of give you a little overview of all the products. I'm sure you've seen the coverage. A lot of guys are out there doing it live, and did a great job doing it live, bringing you guys the action, the pictures. Doug was one of them, and so we'll take you to that now. Well, once again, we want to thank Doug for that. That was a great introduction, I guess you would say, to for CES, for everything that they brought to the table. We added a fourth panelist during that. We have Matt Scott, he all the way from Germany, and he's going to help us talk about the next part of this. And let's talk a little bit about this though, guys, with the Arcade One Up before we get into the AtGames. Arcade One Up brought the heat. Let's just be honest. They came, they delivered, they promised, they said, "Hey, we're gonna deliver." And honestly, I think they did. Glenn, what's your takeaway? Because everybody's seen everything that Arcade One Up brought to the table. We just saw it in the video, and people watching all week long. What's your biggest takeaway from the Arcade One Up?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I mean, again, it's hard to imagine. They've only really been doing this for a year. For some reason, Arcade One feels like it's been with us a lot longer than they have. But there's a couple of things I took away from it. One was product-wise, and one was personnel-wise. Product-wise, the machines they're coming out with, I am excited about, but I'm really more honestly excited about the Coleco purchase of the little mini-cades, the old ColecoVision size machines. I'm really excited for that, and more so for those micro consoles, the Atari, the ColecoVision, and television with the little old TV set. That stuff I assume took a lot of people by surprise, and they're very neat. Now, of course, things like NBA Jam, which is, we've kind of known for a while that was probably going to be coming out, but the fact that they make that Wi-Fi enabled to allow you to play other people across the country or the world and leaderboards and stuff like that is kind of showing that Arcade One Up is definitely not sitting on their laurels. They are listening to all of us, and they're adding features. And even with the machines that bring it back. Now, people ask me all the time about, about my spinner. And I have told Arcade One Up, and I've told the community this many times, I have no problem with Arcade One Up, their spinner coming out with a new one. I'm actually glad they did. And their new, looks like a 6-in-1 or maybe the 12-in-1 coming out is going to have their new free spinning spinner. And that's all that matters, that they're taking their product and they're improving it. And I take my hat off for them for listening to us and doing such a thing. And the one thing I want to mention about personnel is both David, John, Scott always say the same thing. Listen, it's because of the fans, people in the community, that these things have been happening. They admitted that when the machine came out, it was kind of testing the waters. And I've said that before to all these companies, even with like Toy Shock, when they first come out, they're just testing the waters, seeing how it is. And Arcade One Up definitely saw, wait a second, we have something here. This is really just supposed to be a little pet project for Scott at the time. And he realized that, no, there is a huge market here. He came out with machines and listened to all of us. And I agree with something he said in the video. How many of these companies move this fast? Some people say they're not moving fast, but when you look at Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo or other companies, Arcade One Up and Scott have been listening to us. He's in the trenches all the time, and they are making changes. Any kind of change takes time to happen, but I'm telling you from the heart that I've not seen a company go so far so fast with their product line. So that's probably the biggest thing I took away from all of CES was that.
Yeah. What do you think? We're going to jump to PDubs here. What do you think the biggest takeaway for you was with Arcade One Up at CES? Was it the pinball? Was it the Burger Time Special Limited Edition cab? What tickled your fancy?
Well, actually, and I don't know if anyone else. It's kind of funny. So, I think Steve and I talked to you on the phone, and I think I talked to Ralph and another guy on the phone on my nice, 5-hour drive home from Vegas. And I think I had the same conversation with all three content creators. I'm like, what were you most excited about? And I told all of you guys the same thing. And it's going to sound so cheesy, but it's because it's sentimental. It's that is those little Coleco recreations that they're coming out with. Because my parents had those when we were a kid, and we had the Pac-Man.
Ouch.
And
Ouch,
we had
parents?
Ouch. Yeah. We had the Pac-Man, we had the Donkey Kong, and I never thought I would see those again. I've seen them on eBay for like a couple $100, but I've never wanted to buy them. But to be able to get those from Arcade One Up, I think that's what this business or this industry is all about, is all of us recapturing those things that were important to us when we were younger. And that definitely captured a piece of my heart when I walked through their booth and I saw those. So, and of course, they got some pretty cool arcade cabinets coming out too.
Glenn, we got a super chat here on YouTube, and it says, Glenn, did any of you, are you making spinners with Arcade One Up on the new Asteroids cabinet?
Well, the Arcade One was showing that they actually have created a new spinner. It's a free floating ball bearing spinner using an optical encoder, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's like the AtGames. It's an optical encoder. It's not a magnetic type of encoder. But to be quite honest, that might be enough for everyone. I mean, it's weighted, it's free spinning, and it's a definite improvement over their first gen clicky spinner. And again, I am excited for them, and I hope that they do well with it. My spinner is designed for outside Arcade One Up as well, so I'm not concerned about it at all. But I'm extremely happy that I was able to help them during the interim, and now that they have those installed in the machines, which we all agree that's probably what they should have had to begin with. I'm just again glad that they did take the time to create something new. It's pretty decent. People seem to like it who purchased it, and they're now going to incorporate that in their machines. So hopefully by the end of this year, they'll come out with a Pong and a Warlords.
Nice, nice. Matt, what was your takeaway? I mean, I know you've been you joined the show here today just to we're going to talk about the 3-player AtGames scenario that we did the other day, but I know you were excited a lot about some of the stuff that Arcade One Up brought to the map. What was on your table?
Yeah, I'd probably say the virtual pinball that was probably my favorite that came out, just because seeing Toy Shark just came out with that. Toy Shark, sorry, they came out with that, and at Arcade One Up, they heard what people wanted and they came out with their own, and it looks pretty decent. And I think their Arcade One Up is pulling from these different companies and taking different things. Like with the NBA Jam, you got the Wi-Fi enabled, capabilities playing online. AtGames had that. Most of it's in beta right now, but still, they're taking these different things, different aspects of the different companies out there, and trying to incorporate them into their product. And I think that's great. More competition, that just means better products for the rest of us.
No, I think that's a good,
right.
good
That's
point
it.
to bring up.
That's exactly it. I mean, we've all talked about this before, and I've probably talked over the moon and back about it, is that, the more people in the industry, it's a double-edged sword. And the plus side is every other company is able to see what they're doing and come out with their own product and improve, better price point, better quality, better experiences. The one thing I do worry about is, and I've said this on, I think, the last podcast as well, or the show, is I do have a little fear at the bottom of my gut about oversaturation, because I grew up in the 80s, and we had the crash of 83, and I see a lot of great products coming out that people already know me. I'm going to buy them all because I'm insane.
No, no. Stop right there. You're not just going to buy one. You're going to buy like 3 or 4 and bag them all up and stick them on your shelf.
Well, I have to be honest. You have to buy one to keep fresh in the box. You have to get one to take out of the box and display, and then you got to have one you buy to play. Then you have to buy one to put a mod in. So
yes,
exactly. So I do buy a couple.
I wasn't lying,
but I do worry that they're like right now. Like I say, Arcade One Up has their Street Fighter cabinet, which is the 3/4 Street Fighter cabinet. Then you have New Wave Toys Replicate with Street Fighter cabinet, and now you got Basic Fun. I'm sorry, My Arcade coming out with a Street Fighter cabinet. So those things I do get a little worried about, because each one's going to have the pluses and minuses, but you're oversaturating the market with the same type of title. So I'm a little leery. Don't mark me down as saying it's going to happen, but I do have a concern of too many of the IPs being the same between different manufacturers.
And I think the same thing goes true. We get in these shows here, and I want to kind of put this out there. We get in these shows, and everybody's like, we're doing this all with a bunch of different content creators, right? There's no secret. There's Ralph and Console Kits are doing a show. We're doing a show. And the reason we're doing this is because we want you guys to have the most accurate information that's out there. And we like to talk about this stuff. Let's just be honest. I mean, this for me is an outlet. So when we see
these are the only people who listen to us about this stuff.
Yeah, our wives. I mean, I'm sure Ralph and them, they'll tell you. They send me to the basement. She sends me down here, and she says, "Okay, go geek out with your friends." But in all reality, all these companies coming out with these great products. I mean, PW, you kind of hit the nail on the head with your one video where you said it was the stream, or what was it, the Arcade Wars. because honestly, these guys they're going to be trying to bring the best features that they can out. And it's our job to stay as unbiased as we can to talk about the pros and the cons. And honestly, at this point, until we get our hands on the arcade one-up pinball machine and some of these other ones, we're just speculating at this point. But somebody asked me in the chat, said, did I pre-order the Burger Time? I have not yet, because Burger Time, I wanted it, and I've just kind of been seeing where I want it. But I also want the Star Wars. I want the new Star Wars with the seat.
That's, I got to say, that was beautiful. I mean, that's real nice. And I could see already people modding that, to have the total enclosure. But even without it, I mean, that's how I first played Star Wars myself. The first time I played it was a sit-down cabinet. And that just looked great. I take my hat off to them for that. It's a simple thing, but
yes,
it adds so much to it.
Any Star Wars fan is going to want this in their arcade or in their Star Wars. Even if you're not buying all these arcades, you just want one, right? That you could just display. It looks like you're in the X-wing cockpit. But
you know what? We're going to talk about that too. I know the NBA Jam has that.
Yes.
But even like Star Wars and the older machines, if they were to re-release them with the Wi-Fi in there, so they have leaderboards. I mean, that would be a huge thing as well, because you can get your high score and some guy in, I don't know, Ohio or Arizona or in Germany beat your score. That makes you want to go back and and get your score back on there. So that's a huge community thing. Again, it's only with the NBA Jam now, but I do hope maybe in the future, as they re-release maybe older titles, they'll have that ability and a leaderboard in there, because it's back in the day, and these are the kind of machines that you did that, you wanted your name up on that list, and you wanted people to see it. So to have something like that now worldwide, I think would be a huge fun thing for people to want to, constantly go out, get these machines and play them.
I'm just really shocked, Glenn, and I'm sure the rest of the guys here are shocked that you didn't say the mini-cades were going to be like your favorite, because they had the old CRT TVs and the old ColecoVision, and I'm just saying.
Well, I am not gonna lie. I did have my my little love fest with them. I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, they are. I like PDubs said, when I saw the Coleco ones out there, I'm happy for a couple reasons. One, when people have been modding them at this point, myself included, usually have to find one of those old ones, and they're not rare, but they're very expensive, as PDubs said as well. They go for anywhere from $60 to $150 with a box for these. And they're you really shouldn't have to touch them. But if I get them broken, could I fix it? Maybe, but I could also make it something else. So with these new ones, it's also a new supply of cases, to be honest, for making machines. So again, I'll have to buy ones to keep, ones in the box, and ones to mod. But honestly, what really got my attention was the small Atari, ColecoVision, and Intellivision, and it caught a lot of people's eye, including mine, that ColecoVision one was being shown with Donkey Kong. Now, Donkey Kong was the pack-in game with ColecoVision, but when it was released in other avenues, most notably recently would have been the AtGames ColecoVision unit, Donkey Kong was not on there due to licensing. So I don't know if that was simply shown because it was at the show and it had to be removed later on, or if they actually got that license. But if Arcade One, if they actually got the license to have that Donkey Kong packing in with that ColecoVision, that is going to sell just for that alone. And I'm going to buy it and put it up on a pedestal as my most pristine thing to have, because that's a time when Nintendo, they were in the arcades, they didn't have any home consoles. This is 82, and Nintendo and ColecoVision were actually helping each other out back then. And to have Donkey Kong's home port, which was, to be quite honest, the best home port of its day by far, that'd be amazing.
So I'm glad you're.
Yes, I'm very excited over it.
I'm glad you're on the show, because in '82 I was 3 years old, so I don't remember any of that.
You're killing.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yes. So we're Glenn's the old man of the group.
So I'm basically Yoda. I'm Yoda here.
So I remember those Coleco-like games. I remember them when I was in kindergarten or first grade. We had it at break time. We could play it. We had that. I think PW, you and I were talking about this. They had that in Pac-Man, and I remember that's when I first had Frogger, and I was like, "This is awesome." So I don't know if for me, if it's something that I would get to play. I might get it to stick on a shelf behind me here to kind of display in the studio. Nonetheless, it's pretty cool, especially the price points, right?
Yep. And actually, so. I hope there's almost like a cycle of games. So if you do put it up on your shelf it'll just cycle through the games after a few minutes just to see it. I think that would be, again, a beautiful thing to have on a shelf if it could show some of the gameplay on the games installed on it.
I think, you know, myself, the Sega cabinet really stood out. I thought the Sega one, I mean, I'm big on Burger Time, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of hate for this, but I am not a fan of NBA Jam. I'm just not. In fact, I would probably pick up the Sega cabinet before I would do NBA Jam. Just being honest.
Yep, and I'm with you too. And actually, there was some comments out there. People were saying that why they chose, like Golden Axe, stuff like that.
Oh,
But then they
those are
started watching the
classics.
videos. But they started watching video of the gameplay. Then they saw, the static picture. When they saw the gameplay, they're like, "Whoa, you know what? I think I actually like that game." So it was even pulling people into who had no, need or want for it before. But the most important thing about that Sega cabinet is that they now have a partnership with Sega. So hopefully down the road, we'll start seeing much more from Sega with Arcade 1-Up.
It'll be interesting. What let's go down the line really quick before we get into the AtGames CES announcement. Right now, what's the number one cabinet that everybody's gonna purchase or get, whether it's pre-order or, Glenn, we'll start with you. What's the next cabinet of all the new ones that's gonna be on your hit list?
Well, I'm going to be honest. Although the artwork, and the music's not identical, Frogger probably. I mean, that's one of my fun games. I always liked Frogger, and I want to tell everyone out there because I had a lot of people make these comments about, the music wasn't right, the artwork wasn't right. Again, that's not up to Arcade 1-Up. If you look at the other new releases of Frogger, most notably, you can go looking at like Basic Fun. It's the artwork you get from the manufacturer. That's what they say. This is the license. This is what you're allowed to use. I don't know what the issue is with the artwork, but that is the artwork they're putting out, and it doesn't look bad at all. It actually does look kind of nice. But remember, artwork can very easily be changed. The cabinet itself's got some good games on there, and that would be the number one for me on the list.
Dubs, what's number one on your hit? I think I already know the answer to this, but go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I think I said it. I think I was live on the fan page on Facebook when I was walking around their booth, and I saw that the Sega cabinet, and I said that would be a day one
Really?
purchase for me. Yeah, because
I thought Jam would have been.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I've always been, back in the day, you had your Nintendo and your Sega. Like I was always on the Sega side. Like,
Yes.
So the Sega cabinet is a day one for me. And then obviously I want to get all the little, the mini stuff because I honestly don't have any of those, any mini anything. And now that I'm running out of room, I think that's a good way to go. I have room for those, but not 20 other cabinets. Oh wait, no, one more thing. They had an Asteroids Deluxe like cabinet that's got like light up buttons and more games on it, and the better spinner.
Right, that's the 6-in-1.
6-in-1.
Yeah. And out of all the Arcade 1-Up cabinets that have been released so far, that's the only one that I never purchased, the Asteroids cabinet. So that might be the first Asteroids cabinet I have. So yeah, that's like top 3.
Okay. All right. Matt, what's your hit list? What's number one?
I'm with PDubs. Number one, I'm with PDubs. I like the Sega cab. I think most people are going to want the NBA Jam. It's a 4-player cab. You got the Wi-Fi built in. I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people, but Sega's number one on my list. And then, I mean, outside of the cabs, I really want their pinball. So
yeah,
it looks good. Yeah. So I want it.
Well, I think that's a given. I think everybody here wants the pinball. I mean, it's a given. I mean, and to be fair, we know that there's Toy Shock. We're gonna get to that. But having the different tables, the different selections, we got choices now, fellas. We got choices.
Right.
This is good. Right. This is a good thing.
And the different price points.
Different price points.
I mean, looking at the when John and Retro Ralph was out there and Doug was out there and PDubs was out there seeing these pinball machines. I mean, obviously we haven't actually got our hands on the Arcade 1-Up one yet, but I definitely trust Retro Ralph and Doug and PDubs more or less. I trust PDubs. But the Arcade 1-Up cabinet really does look nice. It's got a lot of features in it. And one of the key things about it was, and it hasn't been really brought up too much, that when John says it's going to be easy to open up and lift the machine and get to the inside. And that's a key thing because, again, Arcade 1-Up, I've had a lot of talks with them in the past. And some companies don't like you modding stuff. Microsoft or Sony, they don't want you touching this. Nintendo sure as heck doesn't want you modding this stuff. But Arcade One Up actually kind of welcomes that. They want people to make it their own, and whether with that pinball machine it's just for repairs or it's actually maybe they'll sell improvements, new features you can install yourself. I think that's a huge possibility in future proofing the machine. Just aside from the fact that it's a gorgeous looking pinball machine.
Well, I mean, what about even just making repairs? I mean, let's face it, nothing's going to last forever. So even if it's 2 years and then you got to replace something inside there, a wire gets shorted
or something
yeah,
like that.
something.
Right.
Having that ability is ideal. I mean, it's easier than taking screws out. I get that, but I mean, just that factor alone, kind of thinking about that, it helps the consumer. They don't mind paying a little extra for that. But then you also have the other side that maybe can't do that. They can't get they can't get that, and they still want a decent table, and they've got the Toy Shock. So, it's
again, Toy Shock's doing their thing too. I mean, they came out with their first 2 machines, tested the waters, and obviously PDubs was out there, and they have the new machines out there where they improved the plunger, or the plunger, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah, the plunger.
And they have a new screen, a 10-inch screen in the back. So again, they're listening to the community just as well. I don't know if the price is going to stay the same. My guess is it may go up a little bit. It makes sense if it does. But again, they're taking feedback, and rather than just ignoring it and just coming up with the same stuff, they're listening and improving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead, PDub.
Yeah. I mean, what I like to see from the outsider point of view is that let's look at this logically. Is that Toy Shock launches a product that's only 6 weeks old, and they immediately got feedback, whether it was the gameplay, the appearance of the machine, the plunger mechanism, the sound system, and usually I don't see very many companies within 6 weeks say, okay, let's make it better for you. And they've made some improvements on the machines that you guys saw at CES, with more improvements to come, because they are listening to the community and listening to them quickly, which I found very, very impressive. Being there, I can tell you I did like the new plunger, as well as the black bezel. Although I think if they want to keep the bezel the same size it is, I think a mixture of black and silver would look the best, not just
I
one
agree
flat.
with you, PDub.
Yep.
I agree with you totally.
However, they do have, with the wide body cabinet, they do have room in there with the way the cabinet's designed, where, I mean, obviously it's going to jump the price, but maybe you could get a bigger screen in there with a 1-inch bezel, maybe go from a 24 to a 27. And that would look nice in that particular cabinet shape as well. But they've been taking a lot of feedback, and not only them, but also the guys at Farsight Studios, with the pinball arcade software that are in there, and they are looking at the flipper delay, any kind of gameplay lag, and they believe that we're going to have some solutions announced shortly. And I don't think that the next generation, or the next batch, will have those issues. So we'll have to stay tuned for more and see what they tell us.
Let me ask you guys something, because we were talking about room here in our own arcades. I've got 10 machines plus the Legends 11 plus the Pinballs 12. I'm running out of room. And a lot of people were asking, I saw, are you going to come out Arcade One Up? Are you going to come out with a full size? Toy Shock, are you going to come out with full size? Now, PW, you said just now, if they shrink the bezel, maybe they could put a 27-inch in there. Do we really need a 27-inch screen in there?
I don't know.
I mean, 24 just seems good for what it is.
Well, I mean, if they can keep it the same size and fit a bigger screen in, then great, because that bezel's huge.
Oh no, yeah, no, and I'm probably the only one on this panel that doesn't mind the bezel because of my kids. I really don't mind the bezel, but
well,
I'm
the bezel I sent with the kids, it's not a big deal. But when you look at the pinball, if you look at the Arcade One Up, everything seems proportional, and just that bezel on the Toy Shock just doesn't seem proportional. But I agree, you could put your beer there, you could put a drink there, which is great. But if you want to show it off as a centerpiece of a game room, which most of us probably will do, it just doesn't seem proportional.
That's what I'm going to do with the giant joysticks from Arcade One Up. I know Ralph got a little friendly with one, so I heard, at CES, but I want to get one as a decoration. Or Glenn, you had mentioned about using it for like, because I have a lot of people over a lot of times and do parties or whatnot. It would be a good party type game to have a giant joystick that everybody can play and kind of immerse themselves in the game. So, they got to look nice in the arcades too, right? The
Right.
pinballs, the arcades. So I don't know. It's
But
gonna be
and
interesting.
again, it was just a good idea. I mean, someone
Yeah.
just kept. I mean, Scott had to approve it. But so why do we have a really big joystick? You could kind of stand there and play it. And most companies be like, "What are you insane?" But it's really not a bad idea, especially if you have, we have these big screen TVs now. You put that down in the floor, and your kids stand on that one little spot and play the game. It's just a nice thinking outside the box. And I take my hat off again to Arcade One Up for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of those things where, you have this Arcade One Up put it out there. They got it all out there. Yeah, Toy Shock was first, but they didn't hit the market right with it. They marketed it as a toy. That's what they did. Let's just call a spade, right? They marketed it as a toy. Us grown-ups, we gravitated toward it. Meanwhile, arcades in the back, Arcade One Ups in the background, going, we already know that these guys want pinball. They've been asking for since we came out with this. So now they took everything and they heard it and they put it out there. So now everybody else is going to play catch up to kind of get to that same level, or at least try to get to the same level, right?
I don't know if I agree with they marketed it wrong. They always marketed it for little kids. I mean, the video shows little kids and old geezers like me. It was it was never targeted for for adults.
No,
So,
okay. So
I don't
we
think they marketed it wrong.
misconstrued it. We misconstrued the
We
marketing
did.
on it. Okay.
What they may have simply not had in in a thought process at the time was how much adults like us wanted it. So if anything, maybe they could have come out with one of their pinball machines for the kids, and an enhanced version. But they're kind of doing it now. But I disagree. I don't think it was mismarketed. I think we're simply going, we want pinball so bad that we're going to take that one and mod it like Retro Ralph already spent he spent a fortune, doing it up.
But see, I don't
But
want to
Toy
do
Shock
that.
didn't listen.
I don't want to do that on a $400 cabinet. I don't want to put $1,000 total into it, or $1,200. I'd rather just save my money and go buy the Arcade One Up.
I've seen people buy $80,000 Teslas and they start modding it right away.
I'm not putting anybody down
for
for
everybody.
it. I'm not putting anybody down for it. I personally don't want to mess with it.
Yeah,
I just don't.
I agree. Like, yeah, I agree. Sorry to interrupt you, Steven. But like for instance, like I got a YouTube video. I it's done. I just haven't even posted it yet. Like I took a look at the Toy Shock machine. It's a $400 digital pinball machine. Yeah, I could have dropped a few $100s into it to make it this, kind of like something like what you saw Retro Ralph do or Detroit Love do. But I looked at it and I'm like, with the way these pinball machines come, you really want to just get them out of the box and really just enjoy them as they come, that they have the right features, the right games, the right gameplay. And honestly, I'm not looking at, I know some folks really love building virtual pinball machines and stuff. I mean, that's not really me. So, like, for instance, my video is just showing people how you can add micro switches, leaf switches, how you can change the buttons out, how you can change the bezel, and things of that nature. Aesthetic stuff. I mean, in my personal opinion, if I was to mod that Toy Shock pinball machine, I would just mod the aesthetic stuff, put better speakers in it, and things like that. But I don't think you need to drop, $600 into that thing and have it play 2,000 games. But to each his own, right? I mean,
Well,
it's your machine.
I mean, Matt,
So.
what do you think? I mean, with Toy Shock right now, Toy Shock and Arcade One Up, they're gonna feverishly. I mean, it's just common sense. They're gonna feverishly try to. Their next revision's gonna compete heavily. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's gonna compete heavily with the Arcade One Up. Nobody wants. I shouldn't say nobody wants to mod. I don't want to mod. I don't want to do that. I don't have the time to do that. Now, to PDubs' point about nobody wants to put 2,000 games on a machine, I'm running out of room. So that kind of is appealing. What's your take, especially somebody that's over serving us over in Germany? You don't have a lot of room.
Yeah, I definitely prefer modding. I love to mod. Arcades are a little bit easier though. Pinballs, virtual pinballs, it makes me a little nervous, and there's a little bit more stuff that goes into it. So I could put a PC in it and do all that stuff, but like PDubs was saying, if it's aesthetic stuff, sure, yeah, I'm okay with that. But when you start getting into the guts of it, maybe replacing the monitor, that might be one thing. But for the most part, I don't want to drop a bunch of money into it and then worry that I might mess it up.
Yep.
And then I think, especially with the technology we got today, and I know Arcade One Up came out with their virtual pinball and it's Wi-Fi enabled, but it's only for updates for now. But that could be opened up to add more tables to it. And if I can do that without having to mod that, I'd prefer to do that. Again, arcade's one thing. You could throw a Pi in something great, and I know you can throw a PC in a
Right.
virtual pinball, but it just makes me a little bit more nervous. And especially with haptic response and all that good stuff, I don't want to get involved in that.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make, and Matt said it better than I did. Is I have no problem taking an arcade one up machine, gutting it, spending maybe what $250 and have it play 10, 20,000 games.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a pinball machine, it's not that easy. It's definitely more expensive, especially if you want to do it right, and more time consuming. So honestly, these three-quarter scale pinball machines, whether it's Toy Shock, Arcade One Up, or if a new company drops one on us, I'm probably just going to take them as they are and maybe just mod the aesthetics, is just the point I'm making. But that's just me personally. If someone out there wants to do that big of a project, it's your life.
No, and I think right now with these mini 3/4 cabs pinballs, I mean it's fair to say that Arcade One Up is really being the trailblazers right now. I mean, if we're going to be fair across the board, I think Glenn, you alluded to that earlier. They're blazing it. I mean, they lit CES up, and I can't imagine what E3 is going to be like. It's going to be interesting. But one of the things we do want to show, guys, we want to switch gears a little bit here, and we want to talk about the Legends Ultimate. So a lot of you guys had asked, you're like, hey, AtGames, what's your CES announcement? Well, they were kind enough to give us the announcement a little bit earlier, and we got the ability to play My Game Room. If you didn't see the video that I did with going on to a virtual PC where you're able to have your own PC in the cloud, install whatever games that you want from Steam you purchase, and you can install it on a virtual PC, so you don't have to go out and buy a $2,000-$3,000 PC. Go check that video out. But Glenn, myself, and Matt the other night, last night, we sat down with My Game Room because one of the features is being able to play up to 4 players, 4 separate cabinets from anywhere in the world. And we want you guys to watch this, and we're going to kind of talk over it as this is going on here, because we want you guys to kind of see here, like Glenn's in New York, and I'm here in Eastern Ohio, and Matt, you're over in Germany. And we played 3 players on this. And I mean, we'll let you go, Matt, and talk about your experience since you're all the way across the pond. I mean, be brutally honest. I mean, what was your take on this?
I think overall it was a pretty decent experience. We hit some rough patches trying to get us, all in, able to play, configuring the joysticks and all that stuff. And I know we've talked offline about some of the improvements that we'd like to see, but I think overall it was pretty decent. I mean, there was very little latency on my end from Germany, and I do not have the best Wi-Fi, and I was not hardwired in like I know Glenn was. And but yeah, I didn't notice really hardly any lag. It played pretty well for me.
Glenn, what about you?
Yeah, again, you have to be on, at least in my case, on a Cat 5 connection. Wi-Fi, when we first started out, it was so bad. Both Steven and I thought there was something wrong with the server because the latency and the gameplay was so bad. But since I had the slowest connection at that time with the Wi-Fi, it brought everyone else down. Once it went to the hard line, it was fine. And I thought that there was a very little latency, not to the point where again the game would be not like playing like a Mario game where everything's very precise. This is more of a button mashing type of a game,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fine. It was fun, and it was amazing me that I'm playing you in Ohio, which is one thing, but Matt's all the way in Germany, and we had a good game going on.
Well, and the thing with it was, not only did we have a good game going on, but we actually played it for, I don't know, we played it for a good half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, the recording was darn near almost an hour that we did. And it was surprising to me. I mean, for an alpha build. Now, that's the other thing we want to state. This is
Right.
alpha. Don't expect
Yep.
this to come down the pipe in an update. You know, we were fortunate enough to get our hands on it a little early and play with it. But for an alpha build, I think it worked pretty well. I mean, it's only
Right.
as Matt alluded to.
Like Matt said, yeah, like I said a second ago, probably the only issue we had was just the initial setup.
Yes.
You gotta keep one hand up, wiggle this 2 times, go like that 3 times, and then
Dan-
go break. And if
Dan-
you do it just right, it worked. But if you didn't do it just like that, we did have some problems. Once it was working, once we got it working, it was solid. It played great. But they do have to work on, and they did say they saw, they watched the show and they said they saw that and they're working on it. But again, it is an alpha. And once they get that part licked, where it's not all these special moves, do it 1 second, it was almost like Dragon's Lair. You have to do it exactly at the right time. But once you got it, it was fine. It played very well.
And right now, I know the other announcement was they were going to be putting together a list. Glenn, you know about that list where people can be notified when a cabinet is available for pre-purchase. The shipping is going to kill you, though, man. It's like $160. So I don't know if that's a solution. I would keep checking your local Sam's and go pick it up personally.
Right.
And that was one of the issues we
I
did.
agree. I agree. I mean, I know when you want something really bad, it's hard to wait, but to spend that kind of money on shipping when it will be available at a Walmart or a Sam's Club eventually, I personally also would wait. I think that's a large chunk of change they could put towards some other items, like some arcade one-up little mini-cades.
Yeah, that's true. $160. But that was their big CES announcement that they had, and there's going to be more coming. I just thought it was funny that people were expecting them to bring out another cabinet or some kind of piece of hardware, and we're all sitting there going, yeah, that's not going to happen. That would be like, okay, Arcade 1-Up or Toy Shock saying, okay, CES, here, we just gave you guys a bunch of new machines, and then next month you go, okay, where's some newer machines? It's one of those things, like, they just can't do that. You just can't. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some other announcements coming at E3 from a lot of these different companies, but you got to figure everybody's just getting their hands on these machines, Glenn, literally a month ago,
Right.
in some cases.
Right. And they did sell out fast, and I think it even maybe took them a little bit by surprise and how well it sold. But again, we realized when AtGames was bringing this machine out, at the time, a lot of people weren't on the AtGames bandwagon from just other items they weren't very happy with. So I'm sure they were a little cautious about it, but the machine is actually really solid and good. And it took everyone by surprise. And it's just funny how, people 2 or 3 months ago would have said, this company stinks, it's the worst ever. And all of a sudden they switch gears. And we've heard this before. I mean, people said the same thing with Arcade 1-Up when it first came out. It's a toy, it's junk, blah, blah, blah. And now people are, I don't want to say killing themselves over it, but for some of these cabinets, man, people are freaking out to get them. So you got to realize companies eventually realize, hopefully Disney will realize it with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I digress. These companies listen to people in the community and they realize where the people are going to spend the cash. And, $300, $400, $500 for a lot of people is not an easy thing to separate, out of their pockets. But if it's something really good, they'll get it. And they've learned that. And that's why we get what we're getting now.
Can I ask you guys a question about because I was at the show, I wasn't able to play with this, with the MGR stuff yet. I did catch maybe the first 10 minutes of your live stream. And
we're sorry. We're sorry for that.
Well, yeah. Well, that's kind of my question is that thing like ready to go? I'll be full disclosure. I haven't even looked at it yet. Is it ready to go? How hard is it to connect? What can you tell me and everyone else about that?
To make this easy to sum it up between the three of us, as long as you don't have a Glenn trying to connect, I think you're good, because Glenn doesn't follow instructions.
I'm from the generation of who needs instructions? It should just work.
Glenn, you had it. It was fine. Don't worry about it.
We're picking on it. We're just giving Glenn a hard
20 minutes out of our life. No big deal.
But it was good because it brought up a bunch of different things that we could tell them to work on, because it is I mean, all fairness, it is kind of clunky getting into it, and that's why it's in alpha. But it's exciting technology because as we're seeing, like Arcade 1-Up's going that direction. Everybody's going that direction for Wi-Fi. I mean, we used to only be able to do this on our consoles. Now we're doing it with arcade cabinets. I mean, that's unreal that, we all have different cabinets. We can play each other. I mean, it's
right, because I'm gonna be honest. We played Turtles yesterday. My son's more into Minecraft and Fortnite, which I'm fine with. I play with them too. But these older games, all my friends don't live around me anyway, and I don't have the newer consoles. My newest console would be the 360, which I bought like just Halo for, and it's sitting over there on the wall. So to play these games with someone other than the computer AI or just myself, I had a blast yesterday. I mean, we were talking, like I said, we had Skype going on, we were having a great time, and that is part of the arcade experience. You have to have people around you, enjoying it with you. And Wi-Fi has gotten, cheap. People have wireless in the house now, and the technology has gotten so inexpensive where these companies can throw it in. And I'm really happy that they are.
Well, I do want to say this as being the video guy, the tech guy here. I don't recommend anybody doing Wi-Fi if you can. If you can hardwire, do hardwire, because as Glenn found out yesterday, Wi-Fi, if his son's on the internet, it's not that Wi-Fi is bad, it's just unpredictable when you've got other devices around. Hardwire is something that needs to be an option, and that's something that makes me a little bit nervous when I heard from Arcade 1-Up, and I want to talk to John. He's going to be on next week. I want to talk to him about I heard from somebody else interviewing him that there's not going to be an Ethernet cable in the NBA Jam cabinet. And I wonder if that's going to pose some problems with connections if you have a heavy-duty network. It's not so much that the cabinet's going to cause the problem. You got to think about it. We're in the age of smart devices. I've got smart lights, smart switches. I've got, Google in every room that tells my house what to do. My network has hundreds of devices on it. How is that going to fare with something like that? That's all I'm saying.
Right, and that was my full disclosure. I mean, I have, probably 20 cameras around the house. I got like 10 Alexas around the house. I got 5 Google Homes around the house. I got Wemos in the house. I have power switches. So my Wi-Fi, in all fairness, I probably, like I said, I probably have a good 100, 125 devices on my Wi-Fi, plus my son's streaming, plus my mother's streaming, plus my brother's streaming, and me trying to do the stream and play the game. So full disclosure, for most people, they probably have just a couple computers and it'll probably be just fine. But always hardline is going to give you a better experience. But don't take my house's craziness for everyone's experience.
So to be fair, let's also talk about there was an announcement from Stern. Now I know Stern's kind of out of everybody's price point. I get it. They brought a Stranger Things cabinet to the market. And I think it's interesting that Pinball's making this huge comeback, right? It's just blowing things up. Now, it is priced out of my price range, but again, I don't want to go into rumors and speculation, but what if Stern all of a sudden decided that, hey, we're going to make a 3/4-inch cab and it's going to be a real pinball machine? Even though maybe they're working with other VPN companies and software and all this other stuff with bringing that. But what if they did a 3/4-inch cab? Is that something that would be of interest to people? And let's say it's $1,500. Let's say that a 3/4 full-size pinball, $1,500 to $2,000. Now, I have no inside information into this. This is just pure off the top of my head speculation. Is this of interest?
Are you talking about like just a full mechanical?
Yes.
Like real? Okay, so not a virtual.
No, completely real pinball. If they did it.
Well, my own opinion. And keep in mind, when we do these shows, guys, we're just telling you our opinions. It's not written in stone. Would be if it's 3/4 scale, only plays one game, I probably wouldn't get it. I'll be honest. I probably wouldn't get it. If I was going to get if I wanted to get a real Stern pinball machine, I would get a real Stern full-size pinball machine. I think that's just me. Again, just me.
Okay, before we go anywhere, Scott did confirm that there is Ethernet and Wi-Fi on the NBA
Nice.
Jam. So the interview that I saw, the person, again, this is why this is why we like to do these shows, because sometimes people mishear during an interview. It's loud in there. And it wasn't any of our normal content creators. This is somebody else that just went. I happened to stumble on their videos. I don't even remember the guy's name. But he had stated that it was Wi-Fi only, and I was like, ooh, I hope not. I hope not, because I wanted to talk to Scott and be like, ooh, you really need to think about putting Ethernet in there. So that's good. Matt, you back to what you were saying. You were saying you don't think so. You'd rather buy a full size, or was that PDub?
Well, no, I agree with PDubs. I mean, the 3/4 size, I think there's going to be a nostalgia feel there. People are going to want, physical, mechanical pinball. And if they can get a 3/4 size, sure, great. But you're also going to have, it's going to be, like you said, $1,000, $1,500. And then you're only going to have one game, like PDub said. And the downside is it's mechanical moving parts. That means more likelihood for something to break. And then now it's not like something you can mod. You're going to have to go take it to a specialist or somebody who knows how to fix pinball machines to fix that thing. And I mean, how many of those are out there? I mean, we pay arm and leg for plumbing, So if your pinball breaks, you may be paying the same amount of price you paid to buy it just to fix it.
I guess I was thinking about the purists. I guess that was my.
Well, yeah, I heard what you're saying, and the purists would probably also not jump on board with a smaller pinball. They would want the full size mechanical.
Okay.
I do think they probably sell a few. I think they would sell a few, but honestly, I don't think they would sell enough mechanical 3/4 scale pinball to really make it worth their while, to be honest.
Yeah.
With a virtual pinball, you have a lot more options with it. And like Matt was saying, Stern makes great stuff. I mean, we can't deny Stern's been around for a long time to build quality, but it's still mechanical. And mechanical usually has a higher break factor than electronics do. I mean, electronics break, but if you take one with the other, a bumper, something can happen much easier on a physical mechanical. Not that it wouldn't be beautiful. I could see the ball going around. I mean, it would look great, but at that price point, I think purists really wouldn't be on board. They'd want the larger one, and then everyone else would go virtual because, again, mechanical, getting it fixed. One, like Matt said, one break on that thing can almost, break the bank just getting it fixed.
Yeah, I don't know if I would put one in here. I was throwing it out there because Stern's just so well known. If that would be of interest to anybody out there, but you're right. The purists are going to spend the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 for a pinball machine. But what we want to do is, and I'm actually going to do it, Glenn. This is actually going to happen. We are going to wrap the show up, but we're going to stay for a post show.
I was watching the time. I was watching to see when you were coming up with it.
We're going to do a post show.
Drop the notification.
What we want to do is we want to give you, the viewers that came out to watch us live, the opportunity to have a post show where we're just kind of like answering questions in the chat room and giving you the opportunity to call in. But for those watching, because of this going on Roku and Apple TV and all these other distribution platforms, people kind of go, man, 3 hours is a lot to swallow. So we want to be able to wrap this up. Until we get any hands-on with these pinball from Arcade 1-Up and some of the new cabinets, they look fantastic. And like Glenn said, we really trust the guys that were out there that were looking at them, so we know that they're going to be good. We don't want to speculate. We don't want to jump into rumors as to what it could be, may not be, anything like that until we get our hands on it. And I think that's fair. That's fair for the company. It's fair for us. So, but I do want to thank my partner in crime here, Mr. Glenn Planamento. You guys can follow him over at youtube.com/Glenn's Retro Show. And Glenn, real quick about the Tron joysticks.
Yep, the Tron joysticks are obviously out already. We have the upgrade kit for the Legends Ultimate going to Amazon now, so it might be a week or two before Amazon actually posts it. I also want to mention real quick, I just got a message from my partner that the Glens Retro Show spinner is back in stock at Amazon. A lot of people have been looking for that. I want to say one other thing really quick before, I know we're trying to get the hour in, but one thing I want to say real quick. I personally want to send a thank you out to Arcade 1-Up, Toy Shock, My Arcade, for treating all of us out there really great. I mean, Ralph was out there, PDub was out there, Doug was out there, a few of our other friends were out there, and I really appreciate you guys giving us that kind of attention back. We really appreciate it, and we're here to show off your stuff, and I appreciate you welcoming us into your companies to allow us to do so.
Well, and while we're doing that, Glenn, we also want to give a shout out to Arcade One Up and Scott. Scott did invite us out. Scott was going to take care of our flights to
Yep.
go out there, to be there. Being so close to coming off of the holiday and work, it just was tough for me and for Glenn. So we didn't get the chance to go out there, but we would have loved to go out there. And we really appreciate Scott for offering and extending that invite to go out there. So, I mean, these guys they're really awesome people. So, I mean,
They are.
like
They are.
Glenn said.
And Scott did offer
Yeah.
me to come see him in the city, so I'm going to hold him to that one and visit him out there. But yeah, I mean, that was really kind of him to do that, and he said to do a rain check, so hopefully we'll meet up with him again and do a show with him then. But again, that's how Scott is. Everyone says anyone who talks to Scott, he's a good guy, and not only that, we have to thank Scott for making John allow Douglas access to that pinball table, because originally no one was touching that pinball machine, period. But Scott said to him, John, no, if Doug goes out there, he plays. And we really appreciate that, Scott. Thank you so much.
Well, so you want to thank the man who literally drove back from Vegas and said, hey, guys, I can join you today. Mr. PDubs himself, guys. Check him out, youtube.com/PDubsArcadeLoft for all the Loft reports that you can handle. And PDub, go ahead, talk about your podcast.
Yeah, we just started a podcast. I mean, a lot of us, we've been doing these live stream shows, and people just love hearing about arcades. So a lot of us, you're going to see a lot of us coming out with podcasts. So I'm sure a lot of your favorite content creators are going to be doing them. I myself just did one. It's called The Loft Report. And of course, you'll find it on all of the listening platforms, Spotify, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. I have a bunch of podcast episodes I need to post from all the events and things I saw from CES. Plus, obviously, there'll be YouTube videos on my channel. So check them out.
Awesome. And Matt, we want to thank you as well for staying up late and hanging with us here. And you still got a little ways, because the people on the recording, well, this is the end. This is why you need to watch us live. But Matt, we appreciate your service, that you're over there taking care of our troops, and appreciate you joining us and helping us test all this stuff.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And guys, we really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. And those of you in the chat, don't go anywhere. We're going to come back for a post show. But the rest of you guys, you got to show up live if you want to catch the post show and some of the good stuff that comes out of that. But we'll see you next time here on the Retro Buzz. See you next time.